Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson, and put your proverbial hands together, your cyber hands together, to welcome a personal friend of mine and friend of the show, Tanner Cahill. Tanner Cahill, welcome.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure to come on your show.
It's always great having any of the Cahill brothers, and I extend that, of course, to Gavin Teasdale, who's kind of an honorary Cahill, as well as anybody from the shop and Indio Dojo. It's really great having all you guys on over the time and following your careers. A big Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to you and to your family, your parents. I remember talking with Taylor about your parents flying down to Brazil to support him. You've got very supportive parents and a big supportive community for your fight career. A big congratulations. Also, you gave yourself an early Christmas gift and your friends and family an early Christmas gift by getting a big win at Brandenburg 15 for 247 Fighting Championships just a few days ago. And so now you're headed into Christmas with the thrill of victory. So it's really exciting. Why don't you walk us through that fight and just how everything went for you at Brandenburg 15?
Yeah. But first off, I did suffer a loss to Shane Nuttall. I really just dominated that guy previous to this, and just kind of just beat him in all facets of fighting. And late in round one, I got caught right up the middle with one. A little bit too much of that brawler instinct in me, and that's what we really focus on trying to train out of me for this fight, because even Danilo said, you kill this guy every single day in the room if he's in the room, but you come out here and now you're thinking different. So I need to get that under control. That's what I focused on for this fight. And honestly, for me personally, everyone wanted me to get to the grappling right away, but I needed to get that off my chest, because I knew I just made a mistake, and I'm a pretty good boxer, and I didn't want to look like I was, stupid with the hands, basically. So that's why I went and fought this guy at his game, this Pryor. He was a tough dude. All hats off to him. It was a good fight. I still don't agree after watching it that it was a split decision. It was definitely unanimous. The one judge just kind of screwed it up. But, we have this in all levels of MMA. You're seeing it right now where they're struggling with scoring position and, up against the cage, and they're struggling with takedowns. But we can't really do damage at amateur from the top position. So they need to take that into consideration, because I'm just, only allowed to really punch the body and look for submissions. And we all know from jiu-jitsu that it's a lot harder to submit someone from the top than it is from the bottom. So there's a lot more options. So I think that they need to think about how they score that. But from a standpoint of my performance, I think I did really well. I think I won the striking exchanges. I hit him with my right hand like 3 times. And the last time I cracked him with the right hand, he actually was the one that shied away from the striking, which was, I think, a big thing for me, because that, he pressed me the first round, pressed me the second round, and then he started backing off after the beginning of the second round once I caught him real nice right up the middle. But yeah, no, I was happy with my performance. Like I said, I would have rather got the finish, but the kid was game and he came to fight, and we got it there with a win. So that's all we really need to do every time, is just win.
Well, and something about your opponent is that he had over a dozen or more Muay Thai fights and had a ton of experience fighting and the stand-up of the fighting. So what was it like for you, knowing that even though his record in MMA was 0-0, he was a very experienced opponent? And what's it like putting yourself up against experienced opponents to obviously build your career?
Yeah, well, I mean, like the touch on that, I knew from my research that he was a 2-time national champion kickboxing, WKA, which is a pretty big organization in kickboxing. I knew that he was going to have better striking. He had, I think, like that would have been like his 16th fight that I could find between Muay Thai and kickboxing online. So he wasn't an amateur by all means, like in terms of not having any fighting experience. So, that's a lot of times people don't even get to see that side of this, especially with the 247, because it's still building, it's still growing. But I knew that I had my hands full, because he was exactly what I struggle with. I'd much rather fight a grappler, much rather fight someone who thinks that they can beat me in my world, because I know that that's just not going to happen, is the way I train. But a guy that is from a different world that does different stuff, that's probably the biggest fear for a grappler. And to go head on into his game and beat him at his own game was a big step for me. But like, I do like the fact that I'm fighting good guys. I want to fight the best guys, and everyone says that. Everyone will say in their interview, I want to fight the best guys, but they really do want to fight the best guys? Probably not, and that's why Jim Mooney has such a hard job. 247 I give him a lot of respect. Finding guys. I mean, it's hard to find fights, man. Hard for us to find fights, but I know it's hard for other people to find fights. But I'm gonna make it pretty simple here this time. Next fight I want to have here in April. I want to fight Lucas Seibert. I think that's how you say his last name. Wrestled to West Virginia. Kid looks pretty tough. He runs his mouth a lot, so I kind of just want to see how good he is. I don't think he's that good. I think I'll beat him at his game. And if he comes up and fights me, I heard that there's a rumor that this might be for the strap at 145 pounds. So step up. Let's do it, dude. You know what I mean? This is a call out. Lucas Seibert, I want to fight you. 145 for the title, 247 amateur belt. Let's do it.
Well, thank you for breaking that call out news here on MMA Fancast. The Cahill brothers, you included, of course, are always so kind to tell me things and break news on MMA Fancast. So I appreciate that. To me, that's an exciting. We're not Jim Mooney. You just mentioned the head matchmaker for 247, but sometimes I text him and I say, "Hey, so and so fighter," in this case you, but sometimes I'll text him and say, "Hey, so and so fighter just said something on MMA Fancast that makes your job easy," as far as matchmaking. So, I think
that's the fight they want to see, man. How many times we can go fight a bunch of other guys that maybe don't have the resumes, to pad your record. But you know what? Everyone's doing that. No one wants to see that. Let's get the real shit. Let's get a real fight against two guys. You know what I mean? Both Division I wrestlers, both saying that we got the best coaches, the best gyms. Let's just fucking figure it out. You know what I'm saying? Like, why we got to wait? Why we got to wait until like someone like Ferdos can kind of just skip through the ranks? He told me, I called him out point blank to his face at a Naga. Like, you can't fake this shit. I walked right up to the guy. I'm like, "Hey, dude, I want to fight you. Let's fight. Let's figure this out. No hard feelings. Think you're a good guy, but let's fight. Like, we're two dogs. Let's do this." This is before the Nuttall thing, And he told me he's going pro. And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, you're going pro. Well, good luck to you." Shook his hand. He has two more amateur fights, and then he goes pro. And we can't have this shit. If you want to build an organization, you got to have the good guys fight each other. I understand that maybe you want to build yourself and you don't want to take a risk, but like at the end of the day, it's about these fans. It's about what they want to see. And if we're not giving them the fights they want to see, then we're kind of becoming, one of those organizations that's not people are getting sick of the UFC because of this shit. They're getting sick of people dodging and guys like Paddy Pimblett getting victories that they didn't actually win. And at the end of the day, people aren't stupid. We see that. And I think that, by avoiding these opportunities, because they are opportunities to get looks, you're holding yourself back. And you think that you're building yourself, but everyone knows you're fighting shit cans. Every single guy knows you're fighting tomato cans. So fight me, Lucas Seibert. Fight someone good. That's all. It's just, I just want to get that point across. It's not like I have animosity or hate some of these guys, but like, come on, dude. Like, we got to take some good fights here.
I think you're saying what every fighter should be saying, and also what, knowing Hunter, the GM, of course, Ryan Middleton, the owner, and Jim Mooney, particularly, he used to do MMA Fancast. Ryan used to do MMA Fancast. I kind of took it over for him, but we've had long conversations, Jim Mooney and I, about how, particularly at the amateur level, fighters such as yourself, what you just said, that needs to be the mindset where fighters want to test themselves. And sometimes that means you might not always get the win, but you're putting on good, entertaining fights against talented fighters. And probably one of the best examples of this, and I will always give credit to these two guys, they were both 6-0 at the time. They both could have gone pro at the 135-pound level. You may remember who I'm talking about here, but Hunter Starner came over. He could have gone pro. He had a couple pro fights he turned down to take on the reigning defending Cam the Mole Rat Allgaier. And that was, I think, what not only is great for 247, but what's great for MMA. Two undefeated 6-0 guys, super high ranked, could have dodged each other, could have gone pro, could have just said, "Oh no, don't want to." But they said, "Hey, I want to be the best. Let's fight the best." And so I like what you're saying. Lucas Seibert has a lot of excitement behind him. He likes to talk and get the crowd excited just like you do. And he's a Division I wrestler. You're a Division I wrestler. Both of you like to also show off striking. I mean, Seibert's nickname is the Sniper. He really likes the idea of being able to strike. You just mentioned that you like boxing, and you purposely did boxing against a guy with a ton of Muay Thai fights. So to me, I'm not Jim Mooney. I know sometimes things happen. To your point, fighters have to accept fights that are presented. I know it's not what Jim or Ryan would ever do, but if they could show their DMs or their text messages, I know on behalf of the Cahills and other people that they've had 8, 10 fights turned down for one guy, and that type of stuff shouldn't happen. So hopefully a good matchup comes for you. And I appreciate you calling out Lucas Seibert and even putting together a potential title fight. Now, this may be a bit of a step down since you just called out Lucas Seibert, but how excited are you and what difference do you think it'll make for you? At 2-1 now, you'll be qualified in Pennsylvania to be able to fight advanced amateur rules. And how important do you think that'll be for people who are listening that will allow Tanner to use ground and pound, no elbows, no knees, and no head kicks, but it really will open up the ground and pound that you want on the mat?
Oh, absolutely, man. I mean, that obviously, and that's going to make it harder for me to get fights too,
Oh.
I think being able to hit people on the ground is probably my strongest suit because I know how to hold someone down with my legs, just my legs. And if I'm able to hit them, it's not going to be long until I start finishing them quick. And I think that will open up other parts of my game when I know that I can just take them down, hold them down, and just dominate the scorecards, And I think that's going to be huge for me. And also because there's really not a fear of jiu-jitsu. I'm competing against black belts all the time, actively in jiu-jitsu, and I'm beating world-class black belts. So, for me, there's really not a fear of jiu-jitsu. Even with Pryor, he tried to look for a guillotine and a triangle. And it's just like, honestly, they're not like, and I'm not trying to, like, I know he's learned some good stuff and I know he knows how to do jiu-jitsu. He's a blue belt. But at the end of the day, those attacks really just were not credible because of the level of competition I was going against, and then I started thinking in that fight also like, oh man, like I can't like just stay calm and hold these positions because, the way they score it, it's not the same as jiu-jitsu. So at the end of the day though, I think that the ground and pound is going to change the way I fight so much because I have no fear of the jiu-jitsu because of my coach, because of my training, because of the level that I've been competing at. So it's one of those things where I'm going to be able to dominate and do what I need to do. And, at the end of the day too, I haven't had to use it, but I am nasty from my back. Nasty from my back is probably what I'm better at. But, I've been able to take people down and hold them down. So there's no reason to do anything else whenever you can do that. But yeah, like I just think that, and I'm not trying to pick on Lucas. I think he's a good fighter and he's undefeated and he's tough and he's young wrestler, this, where I was a few years ago. I just think that that's the fight that needs to happen. I think the kid's got some skills, and I just don't think I think he's be a perfect matchup for me, and I believe that he's probably going to think the same thing. So hopefully this fight happens. But at the end of the day, that's a title fight, regardless of what they want to classify it, regardless of what ends up happening. That's a title fight. That's a fight you got to take. You got to take the big opportunities, and I hope he's man enough to take it, and not just come up with some excuse and go fight some tomato can like most wrestlers do, At the end of the day, that's what happens. You get a bunch of wrestlers, fight a bunch of tomato cans, and then they end up turning into Pat Downey, get knocked out in the big stage, because they weren't ready because they've been fighting cans.
Well, it is something I'm sure you will give your opinion and your feelings about in the future, whether this fight matchup ends up working or not. I know you and particularly your brother had a lot of challenges, Gavin Teasdale, the people closest to you. It is tough at having the wrestling background all of you have. And thankfully, Seibert does have that wrestling background. That's why it's fun for me. I've told Jim Mooney many times, I'll say it here publicly. I thank God I'm not a matchmaker because because you've got to stay a little impartial. The matchmaker's got to be able to put fights together and encourage people to take the fights on both sides. He can't tell one person, hey, I think we're going to get absolutely smashed, but I still, no, he's got to be able to put fights together that are competitive, like you're saying.
And then you got to realize too that you got these major gyms, and Pittsburgh's starting to get that way where we got major gyms that have a certain amount of fighters, right? So like now you're seeing catering a little bit, you're seeing a little bit of like, okay, these guys are all getting on the card. These guys are going to fight these guys. And now, okay, whoever's left, you fight whoever else. And whoever else is a stud. You know what I mean? Generally, whoever else is a stud. So you will see that happening. And it's not like just specific to Pittsburgh. It's happening all over the place. anytime you get these big camps where they have a lot of fighters, you know, you have to cater to them if you're Jim Mooney. You have to, because those are your fighters. Those are the guys you got. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's just one of those things where it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard if you're not in that like little clique kind of. And I think that now India is getting strong enough to where we have enough fighters where we're getting that respect now. But for a long time, we were having trouble, you know, even just getting fights. But now we're getting them. So I don't have any issues. It's working out smooth right now.
Yeah, that is a big part of any type of regional MMA, particularly on the amateur side. I mean, I know you and I both know this. We've been backstage where amateur fighters either don't show up on fight day or just walk out. There was a situation 247 a couple months ago where a fighter had done everything. It was a couple hours before the fight and he just walked out, and there was nothing to really make him take the fight. So you're absolutely right. It's good that Indio Dojo and the shop are getting the match makes you guys are getting. And I'm just thrilled. I like to sit back and I've had Lucas on this show. I've had you guys on the card on this show. I think it's exciting. I said it to somebody else when I was doing post-fight interviews for 247 on this show, is for 247 Brawlenberg 15, is 247 is getting deep enough. You just called out a guy that's fought for 247. It's getting deep enough now, which is good. More people that are fighting, more cards, more events where people can call out other people and match make within the 247 veteran community. Yeah, people have already fought for 247. So I think that makes it more exciting. And so I appreciate you being willing to say it. You guys are very straight shooters and willing to back up what you say, which is not always the case for everybody. So I respect you coming on the show and saying that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, Luke, man. It means a lot, honestly. It's one of those things where I try to pride myself on, not actually being one of these fake tough guys. I want to be a real tough guy, so I go work my ass off to be like that. But yeah, and then shout out to Ethan Goss. He kind of made that clear to me while I was listening and watching the fights, because we were analyzing it. And he was saying about how it's a division now, like the featherweight division. Like there's a lot of promise in the featherweight division, what he was saying. And it just was nice to actually hear that, because we've got enough guys that are fighting actively to actually call it a division, right? Because it is actually a division. When you have a group of people together and they're fighting in the same organization, it's a division, and the same weight class. And so when we have this, right, and we have two guys that we know are good, obviously I had a fluke. I would have to think that most people agree that was a fluke, that fight that I had. Coming out and getting the win, validating myself a little bit, doing something that, isn't quite my wheelhouse. I feel like that's probably a more important deal than me going out there and finishing some guy that they brought in from Michigan that never fought before and had or maybe had a 0-2 record and had absolutely no grappling idea. I think it's probably better for me to go out there and beat a guy like Pryor than go out there and fight someone like that and maybe make it look spectacular. But at the end of the day, it's just smoke and mirrors. So that's why I think I deserve to fight him, right? And at the end of the day, the kid obviously has earned the respect of a lot of people, and that's why I want to fight him. I don't want to fight someone that I think I'm going to run over. I plan on running him over, but I don't want to fight someone that I know for a fact literally has no chance against me. That's not what I'm looking for, and that's kind of what I wanted to clear up with people. But yeah, I think that we're moving in. I think that the organization's moving in the right direction. Me and Taylor were sitting around watching it last night, just looking at the promotion, the way everything's looking. I don't really right now have any strong urge to go fight in another organization. Before it was okay, I want to get really good here so I can go fight somewhere else. But right now, the way it's looking, the way we're starting to build an organization here, I could see myself fighting here for a little bit, and becoming a pro here.
Well, I think that's exactly what the 247 Fighting Championship crew, particularly Ryan Middleton, the owner, Jim, and Hunter, we've mentioned those three names. They're the main guys. And I think that's exactly what they're looking to do. You mentioned Ethan the Wolverine Goss, the reigning defending champion of the pro featherweight division. And there's a division there too. So I think it's great that you were listening to his commentary and kind of hearing what he was saying. And I know because he's a legend of fighting everywhere, and particularly before there was 247, before there was sort of a promotion really looking to make Western Pennsylvania fantastic for MMA. I think it's great that you, now can see taking fights, building up your amateur career, getting a title, like is what you're calling for, and then eventually making your pro. I think that's something that they have done. Tom Kaiser fought for an amateur belt, won it for 247, and then has since made his pro debut with 247. And I know they've been trying to do that with other fighters where they fight amateur and then eventually go pro under the same promotion. So I think that's super exciting that that's where your mind is. And I think it'll be great for you to continue to develop, call out exciting fighters. And also I'd love to continue to watch your career develop and stay in 247, at least like you said, for the future, to kind of see what happens. So very exciting.
Yeah, man, it's exciting time to be involved in the organization. Like I said, we were sitting back watching. It's like, man, like, just this could really grow. This could really blow up. People want to fight here. It looks there's a good promotion. Like the fights are getting better. I didn't see a bad fight the other night, and that's just shout out to Jim Mooney doing some good matching over there. But yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting to fight there, and I'm excited to get back in there at the Meadows Casino. If it's not against Seibert, I want to fight the next best guy. And I only say this about this title. Obviously, I've heard some rumors about them, wanting if they got a fight of that magnitude, making it a title fight. But you can't have a vacant belt, right? And you can't have a vacant belt. And the guy who held it was Ferdos, who's gone. He's gone. He went pro. Obviously, I wanted my crack at him. Didn't happen. Whatever. Kudos to him for escaping for now. But I'm still coming, dude. And you can't really hide from me for too long because I will be pro and I will call you out again. But yeah, because of that, there's no champion. We need a champion. Look at Dana White right now. He's freaking out because they don't have a 205 champion. Yeah. They're getting whole 2 new fighters in there to fight. 247 can do the same thing. Let's get a champion. You know what I mean? You don't like the result, then have him fight again. Because you need to have someone holding that strap. It's very hard to convince people to come fight for an organization where there's no champion. We need a champion. I want to be that champion, and I want to do it over someone worth it. I don't want to do it over someone that's not worth it.
You've got me sold, and I think you've made your case not only for your opponent, as you've explained with Lucas Seibert, but also the concept of the value of developing a division, the value of amateur title belts, the fact that I mentioned all respect to him, of course. I mentioned Cam the Morat Algar, who not only won an amateur belt for 247, but then was motivated to defend it. And he didn't have to. He could have said, I'm out of here. So I do think it's exciting when fighters take the amateur career and their experience very seriously. It's also something you pointed out. You're giving so many deep answers, a lot of thought behind them.
Well, yeah, a lot of thought. I'm sorry. I'm
a lot of thought, which is great. But one thing I've said, and we've seen it at the highest level, but we've also, I think, going to see it at 247 a lot, which is fighters are going to fight at the amateur level and then fight again at the pro level. Or to your case, since Ferdos didn't fight you and he's now pro, you're still pretty convinced that that's going to be an opponent for you in the future. And I think that's a sign of the talent level and also how close-knit the MMA community is. We've seen fighters, even in other countries. There were the 2 female fighters in the UFC that fought 3 times in Muay Thai and then came over to the UFC and fought again in MMA. I think a lot of times when you're good and you're up and coming with somebody else who's good, there's a chance of fighting multiple times. So I think that's a big deal where fighters understand that if you're rising with somebody in the same weight class, there's a good chance that you're going to fight them. And I think it makes perfect sense. And I'm already excited about the idea of you guys meeting down the road at a pro level. So
exactly. It's one of those things where it's like, you can't be afraid to fight. You can't be afraid to fight people, because in this sport, no one's perfect. You look at these records, you're going to really, really struggle to find someone deep in their career with an undefeated record. Doesn't really happen, right? It looks good in the beginning to get you some hype, but at the end of the day, MMA fans are not the same as boxing fans. You don't have to have a 30-0 record
Right.
to get people interested in you. You know, some of the best fighters in the world, like Charles Oliveira, have like 11 losses or something
Yeah.
like that, 12 losses. Like, you're gonna lose. You know what I mean? But you're never gonna get a chance to be something great unless you fight the best guys. You know,
Mhm.
if you go out there and lose, it's not a big deal. Like, it's not a big deal. Just get back to training and fight again. And I think that somewhere along the line, that's been lost. That actual fighter mindset. Like, what are you actually fighting for? Like, are you fighting, or are you just competing in a sport and winning and focusing on your record? You know, and that little bit of fighter and dog is just kind of missing with a lot of guys. You know, you'll see it in guys. There are guys out there that still got that dog in them. You know, and when you turn on the UFC every now and then, you get to see exactly the difference in what I'm explaining, you know. And yeah, like, obviously, I think that for Dawson and I, our paths will cross, you know, if he plans on continuing the win, because I plan on continuing the win. So, you know, if he's still there, I'm going to fight him. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to fight the best guy. Now, you know, obviously, maybe he isn't there, you know, I don't know, but I just know where I'm going. I know where I'm going. I anticipate him to still be around. I don't know that for sure, but I will say that I will be at the top at some point, and I got to just keep fighting to get there.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on and not just making this about your fight that you just won. I think that's great. You've given a lot of detailed insight on that fight, but also you've made it about where you want your career to go. 247 Fighting Championships has announced, you mentioned it, they just announced today that the first fight in the new year in 2023 is going to be April 15th, which I know as tax day. So at least this will be an exciting reason to look forward to April 15th, way more exciting than tax day. April 15th at the Meadows. And that is a super for people who have not gone to the Meadows to watch a 247 Fighting Championship fight there. They've had 2 cards there. It will 100% sell out. It's a very intimate, tight, loud, rambunctious environment. I know you guys.
It's an arena, man. It's like
Oh,
we
it's
really
incredible.
recently we were just there for Hoots fight, Clayton Lee, total
Yeah.
stud, and he started training with us about
Yeah.
a year ago. Then we started carpooling him up to India. Kids a hammer, man. Loads
Yeah.
of potential. Great wrestler, great striker, super athletic. You know, and that's the kind of guys I'm training with. You know, and what's funny is I'm the little guy. You know what I mean? Right now, like, actually, for a brief period of time, I was the smallest guy on the roster because Gavin had me by like 5 pounds.
Oh,
For a short period of time, I'm back. I'm back to being second to the smallest. But like, we got some serious like dudes that we train with. You know, with my brother. You know what I mean? We got Clayton, we got Gavin. Just like in our general like area, we got Rich Roby, who comes to train and roll with us. Matt Beagley, another force. He's going to be a huge force in no-gi grappling. Hunter Gerber, he's another guy training at the shop with us. And you know, we're really working all the time here. And then when we go out to India, training Ken Burrs. I'm trying to think. I don't want to forget anyone. Tony Welsh. Killers. We got the Chase girls, both monster.
yeah.
I mean, they're both just absolutely phenomenal strikers. And the list goes on and on. Evan, I mean, we got some solid bangers that are coming in. Nikolai, Muay Thai dudes, you know, and the team is just getting very, very close knit, and we're training consistently. And I think that's the difference right now with the Indio guys, and that's why we're undefeated, and that's honestly why like we're becoming the top gym in Pittsburgh, because we just are sticking together and training together all the time, you know. And we put the grappling on the most highest like importance. And if you look at the UFC, you look at higher level organizations, you look at the best guys in the world, they're grappling people, they're grappling them down, and people don't know what to do with them. These Russians, they're running through everything right now, right? We need some Americans to do the same thing. You know, it's so frustrating to watch someone with the abilities of Michael Chandler or the abilities of Justin Gaethje go out there and do stupid stuff and lose because they don't know how to actually grapple, because their egos are too caught up in wrestling. They're
Yeah.
too caught up in wrestling. They can't learn how to do the combination. And that's why I think also the sport of no-gi grappling is going to take off. I really do. I think that obviously we got the ball rolling for the area. Now we're having a qualifier here in
Mhm.
Pittsburgh, which is huge. That's huge for us because they trusted us. They're like, listen, you guys got 4 dudes to the world tournament, one of which got a bronze medal. My little brother
Yeah.
Toby,
Your
you know,
little
and,
big
and
brother.
little,
Your little big brother. Yes.
and we're like, okay, they're like, all right, well, there's some validity here. You beat some black belts that we had on the team last year to take these spots away from
Yeah.
them. So we're like, okay, like whatever blue belts from Pittsburgh say, you know what I mean? So they brought in the tournament for next year. And I think that like, as it grows, I think they believe that 2028 is going to be an Olympic sport.
Wow.
I do think that the no-gi grappling is going to be the difference maker with that and fighting, because right now we don't really have super camps in America that are training to beat these Russians. We're just kind of like trying to like outbox them, or just like,
Yeah.
okay, enough of wrestling to keep on speed. These guys are training at a different level. When we went to Spain and
Mm.
seeing these guys, there's 3,000 Khabibs running around.
Yeah.
They're
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're in the wings. They're ready to go. They're boom, 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 and they all have got that same style where it's defense first, head position. They're not really super concerned with the jiu-jitsu. However, they know it, and they know it really, really good. And we really got to see like what's going on with this whole Russian movement. Like, how are they getting so good? And I think that it's kind of just the fact that they're not. I don't believe the Sambo thing, man. I'm not. I don't buy it. I think it's that they've been doing no-gi grappling
Mm.
for about like 15 years ahead of us,
Yeah.
and doing it at a high level against the rest of the European countries. And I think that that's why we're like almost like a little bit behind, But I think once we catch up, the America's the best at everything. We always figure out a way to be the best, we learn it, we re-engineer it, we spit it back out there, and it's a freaking monster with razor sharp teeth and 285 pounds. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's just we are really good at doing that. And I think that once we get some time, that the no-gi grappling is going to completely take over.
Yeah, and I'm a huge, incredibly big fan of no-gi grappling primarily, and it is beautiful to watch the traditional BJJ in the gi. There's different chokes, there's different defenses, there's different grips, there's different. I mean, there's
I
it,
love it too. It's not that I
it
don't.
right. But I have always said this, and it can sometimes be a little unpopular in the BJJ world, which is I think no-gi grappling in jiu-jitsu, but the no-gi is obviously much more applicable to MMA. I mean, the transition there obviously makes much more sense. I've seen MMA fighters early in their career that are very jiu-jitsu heavy reach over the back for a belt that's not there. I've seen it,
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's sport jiu-jitsu too, which is a little bit different. Like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
like,
that's true.
when we're
Yeah,
talking about no-gi grappling, there's a lot of different like ways you can go with that, right?
yeah,
So there's like the ADCCs, which is like anything goes, and you're seeing a lot of guys that are just like all juiced to the gills, and like it's not like realistic because there's no USADA or any kind of drug testing. So
right.
these guys are getting freakish, right? But then you got this UWW, which is what Olympic wrestling is through as well. And they're I think it's WADA. It's kind of like USADA, but like it's a world doping agency. They don't allow any of that stuff. There's testing. You know what I mean? And when you have that and you have like a legitimate like sport where they have rules, I think what they're doing a little bit different is they're making it more geared towards fighting, more
Mm,
practical, right? So like in regular no-gi grappling, I get a takedown. If I don't break the guard, I don't score points.
mm.
In this, you get takedown points regardless, because in my opinion, in a cage, you get points regardless if you take someone down. And I think that it's just more practical, it makes more sense. Like, or if you're on top, which is offense, and you're not getting outside that guard and you're just staying there, they're going to hit you for stalling, which essentially is like Chip Snyder, hey, we're standing up, dude, you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
So I think that it's actually a little bit more, it makes more sense than your typical no-gi grappling, where guys will literally be allowed to just kind of scoot on their butts into guys for a prolonged period of time, and then someone who gets like a bullshit sweep at the end wins. I don't necessarily think that that's training people to fight, and that's why I think the Russians are beating us, because
sure.
they're going out there and doing this sport and grappling, which doesn't have rules that aren't like necessarily like against the fight, and I think that that's why we need to copy that. We need to do that. Like, obviously we need to have tricks. We need to know how to to work from our back as well if we get in trouble. You know, we need to know that. But like at the end of the day, like you can't just get taken down and smothered. You can't let that happen. And you definitely can't not train it. Like some of these guys at the highest level, most of the of wrestlers are doing that, you know. And that's really why I feel confident in myself taking on a good wrestler. Because I'm not training the same way. We're not training the same way. We're training better.
I know you and I could talk about this stuff forever, and it's your passion. I appreciate you coming on. You've given so many great insights, even excited about what the Olympics might hold in the future as far as jiu-jitsu goes. So you've covered a lot of topics. You made a great call out. Enjoy Christmas. Enjoy the new year. 2023 will be fantastic for you. I'm sure for everybody at Indio Dojo and the shop. Thanks so much. You've been listening to Luke Basin for MMA Fancast with friend of the show, Tanner Cahill. Tanner, thanks so much.
Thanks for having me, man. It's been awesome.
Brother. Take care.
Later.